Hey there. Welcome to What the Heck is This Human Design Stuff, anyways, with me, Anna with Intention. Here we are. Hope you're ready to get some learning on. Okay, so here we are. What is human design? Human design is a cutting edge personality assessment tool that is practical, simple, reliable, and life changing. That is a direct quote from my teacher, Karen Curry Parker, founder of Quantum Human Design. But it's more than just a personality assessment tool. It actually can serve as this roadmap or kind of curriculum for your soul's purpose or the curriculum your soul chose in this lifetime. It can tell you a lot about where you have great potential for wisdom, strength, growth, and where some of your biggest challenges might lie. So, real quick, we have the aura. In the aura, there are different layers, different kind of fields to the aura here. Maybe you've seen this kind of diagram before if you've studied yoga or Reiki or any sort of energy healing. And basically, if you look at the layers where you have the orange and the yellow layers kind of closer to the body, those layers are where what we call the conditioning field lies. Um, this is where your beliefs, your emotional traumas, your joys, anything related to the mental and emotional part of yourself kind of lies in here. And so any energy you take in or put out is getting filtered through that layer kind of first. And then this light blue layer, a little bit further out from the conditioning field, is where your human design chart kind of sits. So you have conditioning, and your energy goes out through your conditioning field, picks up those beliefs, picks up those memories, and then it gets expressed through your human design field, if you want to kind of see it that way. So that's where, depending on your conditioning and depending on your life experience, you have the potential to be expressing the highest, most balanced expression of your potential, or the lower, most unbalanced expression of your potential, or anywhere in between. It's a spectrum. Another way I like to look at it is like with this Play-Doh extruder here. So let's imagine that the universe at large is the whole extruder itself. Your soul is this ball of moldable Play-Doh. When you take your soul and your soul decides to come here and put itself into a body, it gets squeezed through from the universe through, and then you have this little template that's kind of over the opening of the extruder, and that's your human design energetic template. But of course, your life experience is really what gives this the shape and the function. Um, so it's just a fun like little diagram that I like to use. Ultimately, we as humans, we are designed to experience joy and pleasure all the time if we didn't have conditioning. If we didn't have negative conditioning or counterproductive conditioning from our culture, from other people, from our upbringing, generational, inherited beliefs, things like that, we would be in a state of just bliss all the time if it wasn't for all that other stuff. In human design, we use this term the not self, and what the not self is not your true self. It's the part of yourself that is acting out of the conditioning field rather than out of the highest expression of your potential. And that is when we get pain and suffering. The not self is where you are living off of that highest potential of your chart. So pain and suffering can be mitigated. Um, Physical pain will always exist, but emotional pain and suffering and mental pain and suffering are not actually necessary. So, where did human design come from? In 1987, the human design system was channeled by a man, Ra Uru Hu. It was called the science of differentiation. It's about looking at all these different modalities to explain in a very, very, very specific, nuanced ways um, how we're all different, and emphasizing that because we're all different, we all need each other. And because we all need each other to be different, it's our imperative to be fully expressed, each and every one of us in this lifetime, in the highest potential that we hold. The founder, Ra, he passed in the year 2011. And there have been many, many, many teachers that are still teaching today that have come after him. People like my teacher, Karen Curry Parker, Chayton Parkin, Richard Rudd, Robin Wynn, Linda Bennell, and many others. There's an entire international human design school that was founded by Ra and Linda Bennell and some others. And there are many, many offshoot schools as well, like Karen Curry Parker's School of Quantum Human Design. Richard Rudd designed a program called the Gene Keys and things like that. So a little about my teacher, because I have to give her a lot of credit because I love her work, and I will be referencing some of her terminology throughout the rest of this little webinar. Karen Curry Parker, she's the founder of Quantum Human Design and the Quantum Alignment System. She talks about how our personal narrative, or the story that we tell about our lives, is what dictates the kind of experience we have in life. In other words, the meaning that you ascribe to your experiences is what creates whether or not you experience joy or pain, basically. Our conditioning is our subconscious story. So she uses human design and quantum alignment system to help her clients and her students write a new story for their lives using energy psychology techniques and subconscious reprogramming, which is also something I do. Okay, so here I'll show you my chart. My chart here will tell you that I am what is called a 5-1 emotional manifesting generator in traditional human design, or in Karen's quantum human design language, I'm a 5-1 creative time bender, which sounds so much cooler. Just by looking at my chart, I know it looks like there's a lot going on here, but if you just kind of try to look at the way the energy is flowing between the different shapes here, all the colored in pathways and colored in centers, it's a bit of an energy flow. It's cool. It's kind of showing you how the different parts of my consistent energy are informing and influencing each other. We'll get into a little bit more of this later. Okay, so I know. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's numbers, there's shapes, there's colors. How does this help you rewrite your story? So first, we have to talk about what human design is comprised of. So human design is a synthesis of a couple different modalities, primarily the Chinese I Ching, which is an ancient form of divination, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, which if you studied any yoga or Reiki, you've heard of or at least familiar with the chakras. It employs astrology with planetary placements, the Jewish the Jewish Kabbalah, which is a form of Hebrew Jewish mysticism, and quantum physics, which is kind of the spoon that stirs all of these together in the pot. So where the I Ching correlation comes in is There are 64 hexagrams in the I Ching, and in human design, the numbers that are on either side of the body graph, each number falls between 1 and 64. So it's each number corresponds to one of these hexagrams. So for example, my sun on the black column of numbers, my sun gate is what it's called. The gate is gate 29. So kind of similar to in astrology, how you would say, oh, I'm a Leo. Well, I know that this gate is in Leo. It's just a smaller subsection of Leo. Each gate is about 6 days long, whereas in astrology, each sign is about 29 days long, approximately. So you can have several gates within each sign, each being about 6 days long. Okay, next we have the energy centers. The energy centers are related to the chakras from the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and they correlate as such. So the head chakra, the crown chakra is the head center in human design. The third eye chakra is called the mind or the ajna center. It retains the Sanskrit word for the third eye chakra, ajna. The throat center is the same as the throat center in the throat chakra in in the chakra system. And then we have the identity center and the will center, and these two are both a part of what is known as the heart center or anahata in the yogic tradition in the chakras. Then we have the solar plexus. The solar plexus chakra is equivalent to the combination of the spleen center and the emotional solar plexus center. And then we have the sacral center, which is the same as the sacral chakra, and the root center, which is the same as the root chakra. Where the Kabbalah tree of life comes in is if you kind of flip the chart on its head a little, you'll see that there is some similarity here. And basically, there are the choice points and the pathways and how the body graph mirrors the shape of the Kabbalah tree of life. Now, I'll admit I have not studied Kabbalah. I know it is a beautiful system all on its own, and I could probably go down that rabbit hole for several lifetimes. So I'm just trying to know just as much as I need to know so that I can touch on it a little bit. But yes, I digress. So each of the channels in the human design chart corresponds to each of the channels in the pathways in the Kabbalah tree of life. Then we have astrology. So back to these columns of numbers, these little shapes are what we call glyphs, and each glyph represents a different planet. So you have the glyph for the sun, the earth, the north node, the south node, the moon, and then so on down the line, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and so on and so forth. So these are, again, planetary positions within gates rather than signs like in astrology. But we still do consider the signs when we're looking at human design. They are part of the system. They're just not prominent in the body graph chart here. And then quantum physics. Quantum physics explains a lot of why astrology is even a thing that impacts us, influences us, has any sort of merit at all, and why it's been studied and worked with for so long, because it actually has some scientific standing. There are things called neutrinos, quantum particles, and magnetic monopoles. The idea of a magnetic monopole was actually channeled in the original channeling from Ra in 1987, before magnetic monopoles were even discovered by quantum physicists. And just to explain what a monopole is, you know what a magnet is, right? Magnetic, it kind of attracts. Monopole means one pole. If you think about a magnet, if you've ever held two magnets together, usually they have a positive and a negative. They have two poles. If you put the two negatives together, they repel. If you put the positive and negative together, they attract, right? Well, a monopole only does one thing. It only attracts. It does not repel. And so this image here from the Institute of Heart Math shows you the shape of the electromagnetic resonance field that surrounds a human body. This field is generated by the heart, and the heart is where the magnetic monopole resides in our bodies. If you look at this shape, and it is reflected very similar to the same field that surrounds the Earth. So you can see the similarity here between the shape of the field. It's called a toroidal field that surrounds the human body, and the shape of the field that surrounds the Earth. It's fun to imagine that the same magnetic monopole that lives within our hearts is also living in the center of the Earth and is what causes gravity. Just a fun thing to think about, just waiting for science to catch up and prove us right. So if you want to look up your own chart right now, you can do so. You can go to the website jovianarchive.com/get_your_chart, and you enter your birth info. So I'm going to go to this website here, pull up my web browser, and I'll just walk you through it real quick. Go to jovianarchive.com/get-your-chart, and you should see something that looks like this. So I'm just going to make a random chart. Let's say somebody was born today. We'll call them Billy. Today is the 8th of May, 2023. Let's say they were born at 7 p.m., which we have to put into military time, which is 19:00 USA. Oh, I have to type in United States. And we'll say they were born in Syracuse, New York. When you calculate the chart, you will get something that looks like this. So one thing you can do, if you want, you can either screenshot it if you're looking at it on your phone, or if you have the ability to download it, you can download this as a PDF, which is pretty cool, and then you can keep it forever. So looking at this chart, this is pretty cool. So the person who was born today at 7 p.m., they are what we call a 6-2 emotional manifesting generator. They have split definition, and they have 3 open centers. It's pretty cool. Okay, so that's how you look up your chart. So when you download that PDF, you will get something that looks a little bit more organized with the information. All the information, all your human design statistics will be found at the very top above the body graph. It tells you your type, your profile, your authority, and your strategy. And those are kind of some of the main pieces. Today, we're just going to be talking about type and strategy in this rest of this webinar. Some of the core first pieces to know. So when you tell someone your human design, most people just kind of barely remember what their type is. But if you can remember your profile, authority, and type, it's kind of like giving an energetic address. So if some aliens came down and took you up in their ship and asked you where you were from, and you said, "Oh, I'm from planet Earth," that's like telling someone your type. It's like, "Oh, I'm a manifesting generator." Okay, cool. It gives you like a broad idea of what I might be like, but It doesn't really tell you that much specifically about me as an individual. So giving more pieces to the stories, like saying, oh, well, I live on planet Earth. When I say, oh, I'm an emotional manifesting generator, well, that's like saying, oh, I live in the United States on planet Earth. Oh, okay. And then when you give your profile, oh, I'm a 5/1 emotional and manifesting generator. Now I'm telling you, oh, I live in New York in the United States on planet Earth. And then as we get further and further into the more specifics of your chart, it's like telling you my exact address and letting you come into my house and have a cup of tea with me. So in human design, there are what we call the types, the aura types. There are 5 of them. And one of the main ways that people kind of will distinguish between them is that there are types with a defined sacral and types with an undefined sacral. The sacral center is a pretty powerful center. It's what generates consistent life force energy all the time. If it's defined, if it's undefined, it is absorbing and amplifying sacral energy inconsistently, depending on who they're around. So the defined sacral types are what we call generators and manifesting generators. The undefined sacral types are what we call reflectors, projectors, and manifestors. Defined means it's going to be colored in on your chart. If it's undefined, it's going to be left white. So, one of the first types we usually talk about in traditional human design, they're called manifestors. In quantum human design, they are called the initiators. Manifestors make up only about 9% of the world's population. Their aura tends to be very focused when engaged in their nonverbal internal creative process. They can be very driven by how they're going to impact the world with their new and innovative ideas, and they are here to serve as inspiration and an energetic initiation and invitation. The spiritual purpose of the initiator or manifestor is to translate divine inspiration into action. Their strategy is to actually wait for the divine inspiration, then inform others of what they're about to do before they leap into action. They have an undefined sacral, so it's not colored in on their chart. However, their throat center is defined, and it's going to be connected to what we call a motor center, which is either the solar plexus, the root, or the will. Some famous manifestor examples down here at the bottom, and I like to include some musical examples because I'm a musician and I love looking at musicians' charts. It's so much fun. So here I've given the examples of Art Garfunkel and Eric Clapton, 2 different manifestors. Both are emotional, but you can see they have different configurations in their charts. Art Garfunkel has the top 2 head and ajna centers defined. He has a defined throat, and it's connected to the solar plexus and the will center, so he's got a little extra energy. Eric Clapton, he has his throat connected to the splenic center through the will and the solar plexus, so he also has 2 energy centers defined there. So he's also got a fair amount of energy too. But you can see they just have quite a few differences here, but they're both the same type. So you can see how like type isn't everything, but it's where we start. Next, we have what we call generators in traditional human design, or in quantum human design, alchemists. The generators, they make up about 35% of the global population. Their spiritual purpose is to transform divine inspiration into form. In other words, generators are here to create the physical world that you see around you. They tend to be best supported with yes or no style questions rather than open-ended ones. And that's how the sacral response loves to work. That's how response works. Response is either uh-huh or it's uh-uh. They are here to build and create a world that is full of joy. Their strategy is to wait to respond. So again, it's leaning into that sacral yes or no answer with a uh-huh or an to just about everything. The sacral is defined with a generator. Again, that sacral center is colored in, but their throat is not connected to a motor. So you can have a defined throat if you're a generator, but only if it's not connected to the solar plexus, will, root, or sacral. Some musical examples of generators would be George Harrison and Johnny Cash. George Harrison is what we call a sacral generator. He only has the sacral center defined, whereas Johnny Cash has the sacral center defined and he also has the solar plexus. And the solar plexus kind of it trumps the sacral when it's defined, and that gives him that emotional authority rather than sacral authority. The solar plexus is what ultimately makes decisions for him. Again, similar but different. Next, we have manifesting generators. Manifesting generators are basically a combination of a manifestor and a generator. They make up about 35% of the global population as well. And in addition to having many of the same traits of the generator and the manifestor, they also embody the speed and non-verbal creative flow that manifestors have, as well as the yes/no response of the generators. So they're actually here to speed up the creative process and work in a very non-linear way. They're here to build a world centered around pleasure and play for the enjoyment of everyone. Their strategy is first, like the generator, to wait to respond. And then, like the manifestor, they're supposed to inform people around them about what they're about to do right before they do it. Again, with the manifesting generator, they have they have a defined sacral center. So the sacral is colored in, and their throat is defined and can be connected to either the sacral, the solar plexus, the will, and or the root center. Some musical examples of manifesting generators, we have Tupac and Amy Winehouse. Similar to how the generators were different, Tupac is a sacral manifesting generator, and Amy Winehouse is an emotional manifesting generator because she has the solar plexus defined. The next type in human design is what we call the projectors. Or in quantum human design, they are called the orchestrators. Projectors account for approximately 20% of the population. The projector aura samples and sort of tastes the other auras around them, which has the potential to become deeply felt sense of instinctively knowing how to guide others, create harmony and efficiency when they are operating in their highest potential. Their spiritual purpose is to hold and filter the energetic template of the potential of all humanity. The strategy of the projector is to wait for the invitation to share their deeply felt knowing and master a skill while they are waiting. They, like the manifestors, have an undefined sacral, so not colored in. And there are quite a few different kinds of projectors out there because they have kind of the widest variety that you can have with that sacral being undefined. Musical examples you can see here, we have Paul McCartney and Taylor Swift. They have some big differences in how their colored in defined centers are configured. Both of them, similar to the manifestors, both have two energy centers defined though. They both have the will, Taylor Swift has the root, and Paul McCartney has the solar plexus. So even without that sacral defined, they can still have a pretty decent amount of energy. Consistent. And then last but not least, we have the reflectors, or in quantum human design, what we call the calibrators. Reflectors account for only about 1% of the population. They are completely open, completely undefined in all of their energy centers. So their aura is pretty open and able to kind of shift and adapt to the other auras that it is near. Um, Ideally, kind of keeping the best of what they experience and getting rid of the rest if they're operating in their highest expression. Their physical environment, physical location, and the lunar cycle all greatly impact the reflector on a day to day basis. Their spiritual purpose is to be the barometers of the planet, reflecting the collective human condition and potential. Their strategy is to wait an entire lunar cycle. And while they're waiting, they're meant to kind of try on the different possibilities and perspectives that each day might bring them, talking out to their processes to trusted friends, family, space holders until they have clarity on whatever it is that they're trying to decide on. Um, there aren't too many musician examples that I could find, but I did find Frankie Valli is a reflector musician, and Sandra Bullock. Everybody, I think everybody knows who Sandra Bullock is. She's a pretty famous actress. They are both reflectors, which is pretty neat. Totally open. You can see in their charts. None of the centers are defined. All they have is they have defined gates, all those little highlighted black and red lines, but they're not connecting to any of the centers. And it's when two gates connect between a center, that's when you get a defined center, and they have none of those. Okay, so what's the point? The point is to know yourself. This is the inscription that sits above the entrance to the Oracle of Delphi, and it is Greek, and it means, is it Greek? Maybe I misspoke. It might be, I think it's Latin. I'm sorry, my mistake. Uh, it means know thyself. When you know yourself, you can have greater understanding of yourself. And when you have more understanding of yourself, you can have more compassion for yourself. When you have more compassion for yourself, you have a greater capacity to have compassion and understanding for others. We are all here to play a vital role in the mutation and evolution of the human species on the physical level as well as on a soul level. We are all hardwired to experience the ultimate expressions of joy, love, and fulfillment in this life. The amount of pain and suffering that you experience is really just a barometer telling you how close or how far you are from being in alignment with the highest potential of your design. Your human design is a tool to guide you back into your highest alignment so that you can naturally live out the greatest potential of joy and abundance that this human life has available to you. This is just the tip of the iceberg with human design, but I hope it gave you a little bit of a foothold to get you started, to get you curious, to get you asking some questions. Maybe you feel compelled to do some research of your own. I know I did when I learned about this 4 years ago now. In the meantime, if you want to explore this further, please follow me on Instagram. I'm always putting out lots of content there, or even you can get a reading. I offer recorded video readings, introductory video readings, or live one on one readings via Zoom. Uh, Thank you so much for being here with me, and I hope you enjoyed and got some good stuff out of it. Bye bye.